In this episode of the Leadership Hustle, we're going to show how the person in the mirror is setting the standard for the rest of your team. Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. Hi there, and welcome back to this episode of the Leadership Hustle. I'm Andrea Fredrickson, and I'm joined with my co-host, Michelle.
Hello.
So, Michelle, we've been talking about culture for decades.
Yes.
We've been talking about leader standard work and what leaders are supposed to do. Like, we do a lot of stuff for leaders.
Yes.
Right. And so one of the questions that I have asked groups of leaders of late is this. Have you ever thought about what your behaviors are telling your employees and your coworkers about your expectations? So I get this look, first of all, like, you have three heads. I don't know what to think about that, right?
You're making me think.
Right. And that it's like, oh, my head's going to hurt here.
Yeah.
But it's really about this concept of, are your behaviors congruent with your expectations? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So just reflect for just a second, and I know you meet with lots and lots of leaders. What are some things that you hear leaders tout, expound on, promote, brag about their expectations? What are some of the things that are like, I have this expectation, or this is my quality standard, or what are some of those things?
You know, I would say probably the biggest one is just people feeling like they can never meet their expectations.
Okay.
And because those expectations a lot of times are unknown,
Okay.
they're not communicated well.
Right.
But then when they complete something and receive it, it's just not ever good enough and if they would have done it, it would have been better, which then also gets into what are they telling them when they don't delegate and let them take on projects and lead initiatives, because that unhidden message is, I can't do it as good as you possibly, right?
Okay. So they're saying the expectation is, I'm trying to grow you. I'm trying to expand you. I want you to develop. I want this to be collaborative. I want this to be a team. Like they expect that. They say those things.
But it's always their ideas.
Right.
So I guess that's where, and it's interesting too, because sometimes managers will say, I just can't get ideas from my people.
Did you ask? But they don't ask, right?
Well, they do ask, but they ask after they tell them what they want to do.
Okay.
So now people are like, well, that's what you want to do. Why would we bring anything else up? And I'm not going to challenge you, or, well, why wouldn't we? That's smart. You're smart. Right. Why wouldn't we do that?
I'm hearing things from people and leaders saying, I have very high standards. Okay. I do a lot of time working on the business, and I spent a lot of time in the business, and I spent a lot of time here, and yet the flip side is no one ever sees them. Okay. I hear people talk about, it's everybody's job to make sure the team runs smoothly, but when issues are brought to the manager supervisor says, okay, I'll take care of it. And they may or may not take care of it, right? I also hear expectations of making sure that people are held accountable. We will hold people accountable. We will be accountable to each other, and yet they won't have the conversation that needs to be had with people, right?
Yeah, the conversation of, you've got to hold your people accountable.
Right.
That one is very common, actually. You've got to hold your people accountable, as if I'm what?
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they'll say, our people really matter. I'm like, your benefits don't show that. Your flexibility doesn't show that. Your asking and including their input doesn't show that.
Correct.
So it's almost like putting values out there
and not
and it's just wallpaper.
Yeah.
It's just decoration. It's
correct.
How people are doing things, right?
Yes.
And so this episode is really about you as the leader are the standard. So whatever you say is irrelevant. Is what you do that is relevant.
Yes.
So how?
And what you don't do.
And what you don't do.
Let's not forget. What you don't do is really relevant because people watch. They're watching when you don't know they're watching.
So let's
and then assigning meaning.
When you promote an expectation, when you promote a standard, accountability, this is a people culture or a people matter, quality, the communication. Go ahead.
No, you use the word promote. But what I will notice in organizations is they will say, it's really important that we are, we're collaborative, we're team players, we care about our people, right. And this and that. And then when it looks at who do they physically promote into more management roles, is not the people that are team players and contributors. It's the people who are individual contributors and focus on themselves winning, not the team winning.
Right.
And it's like, well, which do you want? Because I can behave this way, but I'm not getting promoted. I'm not getting considered for this job. And who is getting considered for this job is a jerk. Right. I mean, they may be good at getting X done or, doing this or doing that or sales or whatever, because it's not just sales. But they're not collaborative. They don't include other people on the team. They just go do it and then expect, if it's something that ripples over, that we need to do what they did.
Right. And then they get the reward for it. They get oh, Michelle did a great job for that. It's like, but who else was involved with that?
Yes. Yes.
So what's the ripple effect of the leader, manager, person saying one thing, but behaving that doesn't support it?
Yes.
The ripple effect.
Well, people don't feel safe. Trust is damaged.
Sure.
What do you think? It's like psychological safety, lack of trust, lack of respect. You lose people. I mean, morale goes down.
Quality goes down. Your best people leave because it's incongruent. Mm-hmm. And so you also get, as a manager leader, a reputation that is favorites.
Oh, yes.
Right? Or, be careful of this. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, don't think about that. And maybe there's the protected crew.
Oh, yeah. Definitely there is the protected one or two, for sure.
So
but then ripples again to your good people leaving. And
so if you're working for, I think it's really about if you are the standard.
Yeah, going back to that.
Is the standard, one, well communicated, and two, is it behaviorally supported? So how are you going to find out? If I am a manager supervisor and I truly want to know, am I sending off or giving off a vibe that is different than what I expect? How am I going to find that out?
Well, I think you may have some assumptions based off of how people maybe are responding or working, not working with you, or communicating, interacting, and so forth. But I always encourage people to seek feedback.
Okay.
Now, if the person doesn't feel safe, it's likely they're not going to necessarily get the feedback. It's less. Mm-hmm. But explaining that this is something that when whatever X is, I'm hoping they experience, right? Mm-hmm. How good of a job am I doing? Where could I make improvement? Kind of thing. Seeking some feedback like that. Because the only way I'm going to get better is to know my blind spots, to know what's happening, and how it's being perceived, right? And but then you have to be very careful not to get defensive. You have to get very careful to act on it as well, right? Once you start seeking that feedback.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ways to get feedback. When you get feedback, during one-on-ones, is there something that I'm doing, that I'm saying, that doesn't feel like I'm consistent about? And just using something consistent, it's like, a different word can maybe confuse people, but it's like, am I inconsistent about something? Is it that we have a value of being collaborative? What behaviors do you see from me that demonstrate that I'm not as collaborative as we could be? And maybe ask a very specific, you don't have to ask all of them.
Correct.
Maybe there's something there. And
well, but you don't want to ask your super fans either.
no, not you. Like you got to ask everybody.
Yeah, you've got to.
And you might ask some peers.
I was just going to say the peers might, depending on the situation, might be more likely to give you some honest feedback. But again, this goes back to they've got to understand why you're doing this and that it's safe. So explaining the story of this is something that I want to get better at. But I don't know where I'm at right now. And I feel possibly maybe I need to get better. And I'm hoping you can help me. Right. So it's that approach, so can you give me some honest advice? And maybe using the word advice versus feedback.
There you go. I like that.
So, because feedback is that famous F word that causes the
right
fear center of our brain to light up. So, using advice, but it's what are some things that I could do? So not even asking them what I'm doing well and not, but just give me some advice on what I could do better. Because if you're getting advice on what you can do better, then that's telling you then obviously you're not doing that well. Right. But I think that can be helpful. What other ideas?
I like those. I've heard people use 360 feedback.
Oh yeah.
The digital kind.
Yes.
You can also have third-party people interview for you and make sure that that's anonymous. And again, I understand that feedback is not a fact; it's perception.
Correct.
And I think people have to understand that, we all take that information as somebody else's belief that it's a fact. It's their perception. And if you want the perception to be different, you have to do something different.
Yes.
Even if your intentions are good, or even if whatever it is you said falls in a different way than what you intended to do. I think that people have to get that. So recognizing, gather the perceptions that others have.
Because that's their reality.
That's their reality.
That's their interpretation of their experience with you.
Right. And even if their interpretation of something is based upon a history of theirs, experiences they've had from someplace else, that's fine. But they don't know different from you. And so recognizing that if it's unsafe to give feedback to a supervisor from a previous place, it's going to take a lot of conditioning to change that perception.
Correct.
Here. If they struggled with collaboration someplace else and they never get a chance, or they don't very often get a chance here, they're going to think the same thing because they think collaboration is something different.
Correct.
So 360 feedback, either digitally, I'm much more a fan of interviews. In doing that, I think is really, really key. I don't know that many leaders recognize that when they get promoted into a role of leadership, not their behaviors need to match too, but when you get promoted into that role of leadership, that they are the standard. That is whatever their behavior is or isn't, is what people are going to be adjusting to. So if you're not getting the result, or you're not seeing what you want to see, you're part of that environment.
Yes, which goes back to the environment.
Episodes, right? Mm-hmm. That if you're in the environment, and you are part of the decision making and the influencing in that environment, whatever you do and don't do is going to be setting the standard.
Yes.
So looking back at this episode, I really think people need to take a real hard look at themselves in the mirror, right? And establish and recognize, first of all, that they are the standard. Second of all, that they are probably doing some things that are inconsistent, not intentionally. So you have to understand, we don't believe you're doing it intentionally. Although maybe some of you are, just whispering that.
But most likely not.
But the idea then is, let's start getting some advice from others, as you said, getting some feedback from others, get it in multiple ways. It's going to be an ongoing process because our behaviors slide and slip, right? They evolve and they adjust, and people's perceptions adjust and change based upon their world and their environment.
Correct.
And so I love this concept of you are the standard. What you get is based upon you. Yep. And so I look forward to hearing from lots of people saying, you listen to that podcast, what about the standard? You're going to be right, guys, right?
Again, it makes them go back, look at themselves.
Thank you for listening and enjoying this episode of The Leadership Hustle. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode.